In a significant turn of events, Harvard University has recently received a substantial influx of $46 million in federal research grants, marking the end of a 4-month funding freeze that had left many researchers in limbo. This financial boost comes from the National Institutes of Health, NIH, and is the first wave of funding to reach the university since a federal judge overturned the Trump administration's controversial funding suspension on September 3rd. The reinstated funds pertain to approximately 200 grants, as confirmed by a knowledgeable source, and represent the first major reallocation of grant money since the freeze was implemented back in May. Jason A. Newton, a spokesperson for Harvard, expressed the university's relief in a statement to the Crimson, saying, "We are pleased to see the disbursement of $46 million in research funding from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, which we received just before noon today. This is an initial step, and we hope to continue to see funding restored across all of the federal agencies." While this amount is certainly a welcome relief, it is important to note that these 200 grants constitute only a small portion of the more than 1,500 active NIH grants that Harvard holds. The NIH is a crucial player in funding Harvard's research initiatives, contributing a staggering $488 million in the fiscal year 2024, which accounted for over 70% of the university's federal funding last year. The timing of these disbursements is particularly noteworthy, as they arrived just 2 weeks after U.S. District Judge Allison D. Burroughs ruled against the Trump administration's funding freeze, deeming it unconstitutional. Judge Burroughs mandated that federal agencies restore Harvard's grants and resume the payments that had been halted since the spring. Following the judge's ruling, researchers at Harvard began receiving notifications that their grants were being reinstated, but the actual funding did not materialize until this past Friday. Despite the White House's intentions to appeal Judge Burroughs' decision, no legal action has been taken in the weeks since, leaving many to wonder about the administration's next steps. The return of these funds is expected to provide much-needed relief to researchers, particularly those based at Harvard's Longwood campus, where significant research projects had to be scaled back or even halted due to the funding freeze. Many researchers had been relying on limited bridge funds to keep their work afloat. Since April, the situation has been dire, with announcements of layoffs at both Harvard Medical School, HMS, and Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, HSPH, and warnings that the federal funding turmoil could potentially cost Harvard up to $1 billion annually. However, even with the restoration of these funds, Harvard's long-term financial challenges remain a pressing concern. The Trump administration has hinted at potential cuts to agency budgets or a redirection of funds toward its own political agendas. In a recent address, HMS Dean George Q. Daly, 82, indicated that the school would need to reduce its research spending by 20%, a move that signals a preparation for a more extended period of financial austerity. Given the dark clouds hanging over not only Harvard's federal grant dollars, but all of NIH, reducing our research spending and focusing on our most critical research is the responsible thing for us and other institutions to do, Daly stated, also referencing the recent increase in the endowment tax as an additional strain on resources. This tax hike will elevate the tax on Harvard's endowment income to 8%, which is projected to cost the university over $200 million annually. Harvard has indicated that this will affect the flexible funds available for research, financial aid, and faculty salaries. As for other federal agencies that had paused or terminated their grants to Harvard, it remains unclear whether they have also resumed their payments. The recent restorations, following Judge Burroughs' ruling, represent the first time the NIH has begun awarding grants to Harvard since the freeze. Although the agency had started issuing some grants in July after an earlier court order, the actual disbursement of funds had been obstructed by officials from the Department of Government Efficiency due to Harvard's lack of a settlement with the White House. This situation raises important questions about the future of federal funding for research at prestigious institutions like Harvard. Will the reinstatement of these grants be a one-time occurrence, or is it a sign of a more stable funding environment? What are your thoughts on the implications of this funding freeze and its eventual lifting? We invite you to share your opinions in the comments below.